Morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. I'm Maurice Crespi. I'm an attorney, and one naturally wonders, what is an attorney doing up here? I've been an attorney since 1998. I primarily practiced in litigation, commercial litigation. And in 2001, lockdown, I started an organization called COBRA. Stands for COVID Business Rescue Assistance. We put together 100 companies. These 100 companies assisted businesses in distress. But not only did businesses approach us, we also were approached by Lily's Leaf Museum. That's where Nelson Mandela was arrested. We were able to save Lily's Leaf Museum through blockchain technology. But that's not the subject of today. We were also approached by the king of the Ndebele's. And the king of the Ndebele's in South Africa is a king over the Ndebele tribe. And what's peculiar about the monarchs in South Africa is they have millions of hectares of land, but they're unable to securitize that land. And the reason they're unable to securitize the land is because, as a result of the legacy of apartheid, back in the 80s, that was eventually abolished in 1994, they took the land and they put this land into tribal trusts, monarch trusts, as in foundations. And the land is now currently owned by these trusts, but the trusts do not allow the occupants of the land to securitize it. There are no title deeds. They simply have permissions to occupy. Now, this is a massive, massive legacy of the past when it comes to apartheid. Because if individuals are unable to securitize land, how do they unlock the capital? How do they take the land occupation ownership further? They simply can't. So what we have in South Africa now is we have unemployment of 37%. We have the greatest Gini coefficient in the world, the disparity between the rich and the poor. And we have all this land that rightfully belongs to the indigenous people of South Africa, but there's very little we can do with it. So as COBRA, we decided to look at this problem and investigate how can one solve this. Parallel to this, I started in 2018, I started South Africa's first blockchain department, and I decided to take a deep, deep dive into blockchain technology and what I refer to as the convergence of technology and law. Now, hear me, the convergence of technology and law. And my thesis is that it's impossible for us to move forward in the fourth industrial revolution without attorneys rising up and assisting wherever they can in the blockchain space and assisting techies. You know, as an example, you look at the Bored Apes NFTs. What did attorneys do? They laughed. They said, there's no assignment of copyright. Look at this, it's valueless. They say that a copyright's being assigned, but it's not. So attorneys stood back and they simply laughed. Now, back to the land. What we decided to do is to look at the possibility of tokenizing plots of land. So we take the trust, we have the trustees grant rights in terms of a legacy legal deed, which is embedded in the NFT, over a particular plot of land. How do we identify the land? There's a company called UNL.global. They have created a digital twin of the entire globe. So it's simple to actually take a piece of land that's owned by the trust and to create what we call a layer 2 deeds office. That's the property office. So the land is registered in the deeds office, but the land rights, such as 99-year leases, or just the rights to use the land for agricultural purposes, can get embedded in these deeds. We've spoken to major banks. The major banks are very excited about this. They're saying that if the terms, the legacy terms in these deeds, allow for it and meet their criteria, they'd be happy to take the non-fungible token, which is now a legal instrument. So forget Bored Apes. This is a legal instrument. I always say blockchain is the attorney killer. Well, this certainly is the conveyancing or property lawyer killer. Because why would one need a property attorney if you can transfer the rights, property rights, on your phone to a third party? In fact, it begs the question, why do we have attorneys when we have the ability and the technology to transfer property on your phone? It's actually an unconscionable social injustice, in my view. Every single one of you, if you've bought property, will have paid attorneys. And it begs the question, why? So what we've done now is we have embedded the rights in these deeds, and we've gone so far as to work with a company called DigiShares. What DigiShares have done is they've allowed for this tokenization. They've taken it further. They've also allowed for KYC, the ability to KYC, and the ability to transfer within their system or outside their system. So the title deeds in relation to a plot of property can now be transferred on your phone in relation to land that is burdened by the legacy of the past, burdened by apartheid. And this is the only way that the land or the value in the land could be unlocked. Tokenization, when it comes to property, doesn't end there. What one can then do is take that land and fractionalize it by way of fractional NFTs. You can take the rights and you can actually raise money against the property by offering tokens. So as an example, you create a special purpose vehicle. The special purpose vehicle owns the property rights. The shares in the special purpose vehicle are owned by a foundation or a trust, and the beneficiary of the trust are the token holders, which then means that the beneficiaries of the trust, identified as token holders, can be 100 token holders, 1,000, and 1,000,000. And I know blockchain is a swear word, but think about it. These are collateralized tokens. This is what I refer to as crypto 3.0. Crypto 1 was our Bitcoin. Crypto 2, we had our altcoins and our NFTs, as we've seen, the Bored Ape type NFTs. And Crypto 3.0 is really where attorneys have to rise up. And they have to step in and allow for NFTs to actually embed these rights for the purposes of unlocking value in property. We've taken other assets, movable assets, and we've been able to fractionalize it. So now we have a situation and we have a system where the property, which is housed by a trust, which is the legacy of the past, the NFT in relation to the property rights, let's say 99-year lease, can then be housed in a special purpose vehicle, and the special purpose vehicle can issue tokens by way of a trust, and that can raise capital for the occupant of the particular property. So the message today is really, when it comes to the convergence of tech and law, there's a new business model that has emerged, and that is the working together of attorneys and technologists in the same room. And that's what Virtual Nation Builders is. It's literally, we have developers sitting in our offices in South Africa, in a legal firm, a 140-strong legal firm, and we're working side by side. It's the only way it can work, and I'll conclude by mentioning the case study of The Incredibles, Pixar. Pixar had a massive problem when it came to The Incredibles. Prior to that, all human beings were very simple. And in fact, most CGI films really were centered on toys and the like. In The Incredibles, they decided they had to go with humans, and hair was the biggest problem. And what did they do is they asked the techies to actually build modules to get the hair right. And what happened is it didn't work. The techies would take it to the creatives, and the creatives would try, and it wouldn't work, and they'd revert to the techies, and they'd say, no, this isn't working. And the way they solved that is they put the creatives and they put the techies in the same room, and they got them to work together. And this new business model of virtual nation builders is just that, but in relation to the convergence of tech and law with an emphasis on blockchain. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much. We have a few more minutes. Does anybody have any questions? No? Everything was clear? Well,
Good. I see a question over there.
Here we go.
So you're talking about combining, of course, technology and lawyers, and you're based in South Africa. How is it in international, let's say, acknowledgement of these kind of lab tokens on a global scale? Different countries need to accept them, I guess.
Correct. So our job at the moment is there are no laws that specifically deal with blockchain. So in each jurisdiction, it's up to the lawyers to actually go hunting for legacy laws that actually allow for the tokenization. So each jurisdiction is different. So we have correspondents, for instance, in the United States, who work with Zuba Lawler, who are a blockchain-focused law firm. And the same applies there. They have the SEC rules, so they've got other hurdles to overcome, whereas in South Africa, we don't. In South Africa, the main challenge was the issuing of these tokens conceivably can fall within our Financial Markets Act, which means that you'd have to register an exchange. And we've been able to get around that by finding a legacy structure, which is our cooperative model, and we tokenize the shares and membership in the cooperative model to allow for the exchange of the tokens, the property rights tokens. We've just started. We've started in South Africa. You know, this is massive. It's a $33 trillion market. South Africa, we've been given 1 million square kilometers by the King of the Ndebele's to tokenize. Now, that is a full-time job. I'm a commercial attorney, not a property attorney. And what happens is we work on the convergence of tech and law, and we're given a pipeline of 1 million hectares, 1 million square kilometers, rather, of land. Now, that is probably more of a pipeline than any other conveyancer or property attorney in the country, and probably all of them combined. So you've got to start there, and I don't think I'm going to finish there in my lifetime.
Thank you. Any more questions? I have a question. You mentioned that the tokens help the occupants. And so can you give some case or some real-world examples of how the tokenization is actually benefiting the occupants of the land? Well,
the tokens allow for the securitization. So you've got to imagine there's a trust that owns, and only the trust can securitize. The occupants can't securitize.
Right.
So what it does is it grants rights to the token holders, and the token holders can then take that token to the bank, who's agreed to the terms, and we're still dealing with the banks on these terms, and we've got 2 banks who are super, super interested in that. We're walking the road with them. Once they agree to the legacy contractual terms that are embedded in the non-fungible tokens, then they'll allow and they'll accept these tokens as security. And the way it would work is the token would be transferred to a wallet address owned by the bank, so it's tantamount to a pledge, and when the loan's paid off, the token reverts back to the original owner.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? No? Okay, well, thank you very much to Virtual Nation Builders. Thank you very much.
Thank you.